Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tree Actions, the Human Forestry Podcast. And with me, as always, is my trusted counterpart, Tony Tressel. How you doing, Tony?
Doing well.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a special show because it's an officially a first for Tree Actions because we're not in Europe and we're not in I think we're in a unique geographic region, and we have old friend and colleague coming to us from the Isle of Man, Mr. Ian McDermott. Welcome to the show, Ian.
Absolutely my pleasure to be here, gentlemen. Thank you very much for the invitation. Uh,
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm,
We've been having a little pre-show banter, and we realized we need to start recording. And before we get to the first question, well, while this is a first episode of For Tree Actions being coming from the Isle of Man, you were just going to explain if you may retire on the Isle of Man or how long you plan to stay there as a resident.
well, I did originally retire over 10 years ago. Yeah,
Okay, I
so
thought
that's
so.
kind of what it is, what I did. I retired from full-time local government work, municipality work, they call it here, and set up my own consultancy business in retirement. Yeah, I was still teaching as well at the time. It's one of those things I noticed as a thread for the tree actions.
Yes,
A lot of people are trainers and teachers there,
yeah,
so no change there. And then I got completely bored of working on my own mostly. Missed that crack of working with people. Tree
right.
people are very, we like ourselves in groups. Yeah. Yeah, so I came out of retirement and they offered me a job here. And at my age, anybody offers a job, you've got to take it seriously. Yeah. One of the great things about the Isle of Man, it's not very ageist. My boss is even older than me. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's one of those great things. They're not very ageist over here at all. But you go on until you drop, basically.
Well, I look forward to learning more about the uniqueness of living on the Isle of Man. But we would be remiss if we didn't start with the tree action question. And Ian, if you would share with us and our audience the first time you recall having a connection to a tree or trees.
Well, Ryan, I've been thinking about this one since you invited me a few days ago. And I don't think there is any one moment that I could actually pick out. It's
Yeah.
a kind of inevitability. You guys will remember the Forest Rangers. Well, you probably won't because you're not old enough. But the Forest Rangers was a
Yes,
teaching
yes.
program that ran from came from Canada.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a big thing on UK TV when I was growing up. So my mom was very green fingered. I grew up in a house where gardening and all those things were very important. She was very knowledgeable about, well, still is, still with us, thankfully. Very knowledgeable about all things green. So we kind of got that bit going on. And I always remember the forest rangers always wanted to live in a wooden hut in the middle of the forest with Indian Joe and the rangers and the rest of it. So
Yeah.
if you don't know that reference, just Google it. Yeah. I think for many years I had the theme tune as my ringtone. Yeah. Nobody knew
Wow.
what it was, but I was the only one, yeah. So I kind of grew up with that. There's no one moment. There are several moments throughout my life when I thought, wow, that's incredible. I think the first time I was on Crete in olive harvesting time, I was only a teenager, maybe 17, something like that. And they were harvesting olives with big sticks from trees that are 2,000 years old. And
Wow.
that thing about tree care we must prune it exactly right, targeting hand saws only. And they're hitting these trees with massive sticks every year for 2 weeks, for 2,000 years, and they look fantastic. And I always thought that perhaps I could learn something about tree care from this. I don't know. I don't know what the lesson was, but that was the first one. The olive harvesting was one of the ones. And then the first time I saw the giant asparagus in Icod in Spain. It's a dragon tree,
Oh, yeah.
no dragon. And there are certain things you remember that you go, this is why I do trees, this is why I'm in love with trees. There's certain incidents. When Nelda and Jim took me to Muir Woods, that was
Ah,
one of those fantastic moments. I've never seen those giants before. So that was one of those moments that just stands out. Took me across the bridge into Muir Woods. One of those great moments in my life. I mean, trees just every now and then like a little like stepping stones in a lake.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
remember certain things. But where the first one, I don't know. Probably if I had to pick one, a place called Wally Woods in back in the West Midlands in the UK, which is kind of where I grew up. My school backed onto Wally Woods. Grew up in Wally Woods. We used to, when I was a little kid, we used to build our dens there and climb the trees and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
huge, great beech trees in there, an old historic landscape. It's now a community woodland managed by a trust, fantastically well managed. But that was one of those great things growing up, playing in the woods, not far from where I live. And in those days, you were let out on your own. Nowadays, I'm afraid they're not. The current generation, you could even get them out the door. They're not allowed to go unaccompanied in case something terrible happens to them. Well,
Right.
I think we've lost that thing about adventure outside. It's a real
You
shame.
think? Yeah, it's funny how many people, particularly in their youth, will describe like they'd venture into or near to some place, the park or the woods or a lake or a stream, but it's always not in a civilized place. And then always coupled with building a den or a hut or something, right? Like in that location, which is fascinating that we're all so much alike. I'd like to think that kids are still doing that. I see, wooden huts and forts built these days, but maybe not as much. The screenager generation.
Exactly. I said it's still a quite a thing here. It's not the kids here have a very much more natural upbringing. It is a very rural area where we are here. So I don't think it's quite so bad as it is on. I can't use the term mainland because a lot
Right.
of people in the UK refer to the UK as mainland. But you can't say mainland over here. It's a bit like using the term mainland in southern Europe and southern Ireland. If you're in Aero, you can't use the term mainland. They'll kneecap you. So
Right.
you've got to be a bit more careful here.
So the
But
Isle of
back in the
Man is
UK, yeah, it's the kids are very much screeners.
like proud of its heritage, fiercely so. It sounds like.
Oh, very much so, yes. Every weekend there's some Viking killing another Viking somewhere, or rowing a longboat out into the sea, or something, or setting fire to something. Uh, Even our
So the,
beer is named after Valhalla and Odin and Rumsar and all these ancient Viking words. So
I
in
wonder
our
if it was
beer,
like wonder if it was like a stopover on their way to Iceland or something.
no, no, it was very much part of the kingdom. Behind me and over my right shoulder there's a mountain called Snæfell, which is I think old Gaelic for snow covered, snow mountain. From
Okay.
there you can see the five kingdoms as part of the Viking tradition. You can see the five kingdoms, so you can see England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, Isle of Man, Manannan, and the Kingdom of Heaven.
Wow.
So on a clear day, you can see seven kingdoms. Sorry, the Manannan is the
Interesting.
kingdom of the sea, it's the ancient word for what would have been the domain of Poseidon. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And when the Vikings had a like trees, I think it was ash was particularly sacred to Viking. When wasn't it? Like their home would have a.
So you've got to have a tree of life, yeah. It was Yggdrasil was their tree. So
Ah,
their tree of life, the Vikings was Yggdrasil, which connected heaven
Yggdrasil.
to earth. Each
Correct.
every religion's got a tree of life somewhere tucked in it.
Yes, it does. It does. Interesting. So, is there remnants of that, like that are preserved on the Isle of Man?
Remnants of what? Sorry.
Well, of Viking trees or trees that potentially go back that far, or
No,
potentially,
we
I
haven't
don't
got.
know.
There aren't very many ancient trees on the island at all. There's not really. I think agriculture back in those days took care of most of it. There are some pretty
Right.
big trees, but we do get some ferocious winds, so they never get
Ah,
very big. There's not a great deal of soil. It's a small rock in the middle of the sea.
right,
So the
right.
winds take care of. So about 2 months before I got here, they had 200-mile-an-hour storms back to back. Took care of
Wow.
all the loose trees in one go. In the plantations, 8 years of harvesting fell over in one night. So it's quite devastating at the time. So I got here, it was mayhem. I
Wow.
thought this is the way to introduce your new tree officer to the island. Knock all the trees down. Chaos.
Yeah. Um, you mentioned the bashing of the olives. So, like, to get the olives down, they were just like hitting the branches with sticks.
Traditionally, that was how it was done. Yeah, they have machinery now, but I mean, still in the hills in Greece, they still do them the same way. It's a really long stick, and they just put some curtains on the floor. Fundamentally, how they do it, and they
Okay,
smash the
yeah,
trees, knock all the olives off when they're ripe. And then
right.
I was working over there as a student, and it was just smashing the trees with a stick to get the olives off, and then picking all the leaves out, and then obviously emptying the curtains into the barrels or into the trucks, and then carry on. And that's, I mean, luckily it's mostly done in the cooler days. I couldn't do it in the summer, but yeah, that was one of the great memories of those trees. So I've still got a real affinity for olive trees.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So did you? That was you got a summer job in Greece.
Well, I went over there for a bit of a break and ended up just doing some work. You know, it's just the way these things. You know, it's like being a tree person. You don't plan anything that works out properly.
Right.
If you plan it, it will definitely go wrong. So I avoid just
Yeah.
take it as it comes, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Tony and I quip about tree actions. We are the podcast so disorganized we repeat.
I was about to say earlier, I was quite pleased that we're stuck in the middle of the Irish Sea here with very little internet. Yet my internet connection is better than Tony's. It's just kind of interesting. He's got a 10-minute lag on his one.
Sometimes,
Well,
you never know
my
why.
internet it mirrors my intelligence, just a little bit behind.
Okay.
So does it? It fluctuates. It fluctuates, Tony.
Yeah, it fluctuates. It's
Look,
like I
not
have
always as
I
smooth
have
as you'd like it, but
that blank look
what?
on my face. The kids now call it buffering. All right.
That's little circle appears in your head.
So, Ian, how did your journey into the trees exactly go then? Like said you were taking a break. Were you in school at that time?
Yeah, well, what happened was I originally wanted to be a teacher when I was at
Okay.
school. That was yeah. Um, there's a bit of a sad part to this, of course. I actually, for 2 terms, I taught as part of a placement when I was at college at a local secondary school. And I decided that if I was going to do this for a living, I needed to study zoology rather than any kind of education system. Didn't really. I wanted to be a PE teacher originally.
Okay.
I used to be fit and back in those days. Yeah, I wanted to be a. You know what they say: if you can do, you do. If you can't do, you teach. If you can't teach, you teach PE. So PE, physical education for those
Yeah.
Americans. Physical education for sports,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
what I fancied doing. And then I did it for a couple of years and thought, no, got a bit lost then. To be fair, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Ended up taking a job in the local parks department on a kind of an apprenticeship, and that
Okay.
was the start of the journey. I spent about a year being a lifeguard for the local sports centre because I thought that might be another way to go, work in a sports centre, and that didn't work out either really. So I ended up with a parks department job, and an old rugby mate got me the job. A friend of my father's, still with us, Bobby's, got me a job on the parks department, and then from there you kind of do a few years of rotating around and then pick which way
Yeah.
you want to go. Well, I went landscape originally, so I trained as a horticulturist to start off with.
Right. Right. Same as me.
Back in my day, there were no arboricultural qualifications.
Okay.
Because I've used it before in interviews, to be fair. Whenever they've asked you for a degree in arboriculture, you say that's ageist. You can't ask for that. It's an ageist qualification. Because at my
Right.
age, there wasn't one. There's no such thing. And then we got national diplomas and higher national diplomas, in amenity horticulture, with an arboricultural option. I
Right.
remember the college I was at, which is in Pershore down in Worcestershire, which is still a very well respected horticultural college. Your arboricultural test was, can you branch walk? You took one look at me, I'm a fat kid. Yeah? So I'm a fat kid, can you branch walk? Well, you got me out to the end of it. I don't even know what the tree was at the time. It was a long way out. It wasn't very high up by the time I got to the end because the branch had bowed that much. It was on the floor almost. Yeah? And I couldn't get back. Yeah? I couldn't get back up the limb to get back into the tree. And I thought, well, that's going to go well for me, and it really is. I remember the instructor's name was Peter, but I can't remember his second name. We did do other things besides that. There was a little bit of biology and a little bit of pest diseases. You had to identify 600 grass seeds and those kind of things. Nothing really to do with arboriculture as we know it now.
Right.
It was very, very different. We were on 3-strand manila ropes and these kind of things. Really, it's with a Williams full body harness. I don't, you had Williams, you probably wouldn't have had a Williams.
No, I never heard of that full body harness back
Oh
then.
yeah, that was when I started off, full body harnesses. Yeah. And then
Wow.
the big revolution, sometime in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, or I don't know, sometime around there. They cut the top off. They just had the bottom half of the harness. It's called the Williams T20. And what it did was basically just castrated you every time you put any weight on the rope. Yeah. And you got castrated, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
The
I think
first,
it was a few years before we got any proper harnesses.
yeah. Oh, that's
So,
funny.
a weaver still going. Weaver
Yeah,
harnesses.
yeah. Hmm.
I remember
Yes.
that. I think how many buffaloes died to make this harness. I wonder. But I remember the first time I saw a weaver harness, thinking, "This is the end of the world. I don't need anything else. It's not finished. It's good." It's come out of this bit of canvas string that they used to tie around your waist, and it's basically an armchair. I mean,
Yeah,
by
yeah.
today's standards, that's terrible. But I mean, how it's advanced is incredible.
It
I
is.
remember seeing the first time I saw a weaver full sick harness with a bosun's chair seat. Shock, shock.
So that's interesting. For some reason, I thought that the UK had arboriculture going way, way back. I didn't. You
We
know.
do.
Oh, okay.
1646 or something maybe like that. It was Silver treatise on tree care. I
Oh,
think
okay.
it's the first book on arboriculture was published in the UK. But I mean, we're talking about really kind of medieval book almost to a certain extent. Yeah. They're written in
Really,
Old English and nobody can read. I've got a copy of it electronically somewhere. But
really,
yeah,
in fascinating.
Silver
So,
it's called the
what
book
did
on
it? What
arboriculture.
did it? What like? What was it? What was its contents? Do you have any recollection of?
Oh, there was mostly to do with orchards. A lot of orchard work and that kind of thing. That's what arboriculture is considered. Am I still with you? I'm getting messages telling off this call.
No, we can see you.
Still with you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a treatise on arboriculture. So it was very much kind of old English stuff on pruning and mostly topping and stuff. It was I think one of the last books I actually bought was an American book. I'm trying to think what it was. It was on 19 no 1896 or something like that. It was, How to Manage Street Trees, an American publication. The management of shade trees, I think it's called. And that
Okay,
really, we haven't moved on very much in 150 years, except for the topic part. We now
right.
call it topic, and it's considered to be a bad thing. Back then, it wasn't.
No,
And that was very much the case. But the thing that has changed in my time here has been pruning standards, what we understand to be good and bad.
right,
But even back in the college days, I remember Shaw experimented with snapping off the branches of apple trees rather than pruning them.
right.
It stimulated certain auxins to produce more fruit, but it also produced a lot of coral spot that killed the tree eventually. So that was
Okay,
an experiment that didn't last more than about 3 years. But they experimented with snapping off the branches as they would have done many years ago in order to
right.
stimulate the production of fruit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we do still occasionally see weird pruning techniques.
Well, recently I've discovered there's a person out of I think California that is burning the cuts as a treatment after pruning with a torch.
Cauterizing.
Yes, it's cauterizing. Yes, and that this is and also for remove like wounds like gummosis and
Yeah.
bacterial wetwood. Like you burn it and it gets rid of the infection.
Is it efficacious or is it
Well,
potent?
apparently it's in a study, and she's going to be speaking at a conference coming up somewhere. I can't remember. Um, it's interesting, and I guess fire and trees and forests have always been a thing, and with the lack of it, or with the management of it, there's this with managing the forests the way we have, and with expansion of civilization, we've changed the natural cycle of fires, and it's affected the way everything is, and maybe that's why we're having so many. I don't know, because it's another pretty heavy fire season right now.
Oh, this is for us as well. It's most of Europe seems to have gone up in flames in the last 2 weeks. It's been horrendous. I mean, we used to see newsreels of California burning to the ground, but it's unusual to see most of France and most of Spain and most of North England. It rains all the time, but not this year.
Right.
So huge grass fires and taking all the trees in the UK. It's quite devastating, quite demoralising.
Yeah, it is interesting. And
the worst part about it, I think, for me, is how many of these are not natural. Yeah, they happen naturally. Yeah.
Right, that they're being purposely set. Yeah, the arson. Yeah, and the latest, the biggest one that just happened here in British Columbia, they haven't determined yet the cause. It started extremely suddenly and it's not over yet. It's a massive fire, and word hasn't come out as to its origins. Nefariousness.
You know that I was just doing a training course last week out towards Seattle, and that topic of cauterizing tree wounds came up. Somebody mentioned it, and I started thinking about it, and I'm like, I remember the huge mess we made of ourselves with tree paint. Can you imagine what will happen to us if they allow us to have torches in the tree? I just can't see it going well. I mean, scientific evidence aside, I just don't see it going well. You should not give a bunch of tree guys and girls like flames in a tree.
So using a special kind of gas in a torch, like it's a hot burning gas, and they're handheld. You know,
yeah, but you know how we are. It's like, oh, that's expensive. I'll just use my propane torch. That'll work, right? Like, like, what could go wrong here?
Well, I just put jellied gasoline on it, and then I light it.
Yeah, I mean that works.
I like the barbecue with it. That little gizmo you used to like the barbecue. That'll do.
Right. Well,
I mean,
some did spill on the roof. Maybe that's why it caught on fire.
Well, I mean, it was slightly before my time, but I can remember all the guys my dad worked with. Like they would come coated in like wound coating, like the tree paint, right? Because you had the little brush and it just get all over. Like their jeans were coated in this stuff. It was like you could tell a tree guy. Can you imagine if we start to use flame? What that's going to look like? Nobody will have eyebrows. There'll be no facial hair. Like it'll just be
a new accident statistic in arboriculture.
I'm going to send you fire. Burn injuries. Yeah.
Will it fall under exposure to harmful environment? It'll just kind of get lumped in with electrocutions.
And, well, I got to say it was Arbrex. We called it over here, the tree paint. I don't know what it's called where you are, but it was Arbrex. I remember it was still in when I came into the industry. I've got a pair of trousers in the garage back over. They're still standing up on their own because of the Arbrex. I've been there for 40, 50 years.
I can remember the cans. It was tree coat, but coat was spelled K-O-T-E, right? So tree,
that's right. That's
K-O-T-E.
what I remember too. Tree coat.
And it was like a yellow label with green. Green font and lettering.
Dark green writing, and the tree coat was in wood. They were logs.
Yeah, like sticks or something. But of course, you could only see the label for the first 5 minutes after the can was opened, and then it was completely covered.
It sprayed basically, emulsified tar spray. Like,
well, I don't. Like we always had the cans that were always around. My dad, they had like a little brush, like so you'd open a little tin and it had a little brush on it, and that's what you clipped onto that extraneous clip on your leather handsaw harness, right? It's still there. Yeah. All the time, people are like, what's this little clip for? It's like, that's for tree
they just
paint.
They've started like sometimes you can still buy them with that on there, and everyone wonders what it's for because it doesn't hold the secateurs pouch worth the darn.
No.
That it was
a bit of wire on the secateurs.
It was made for the tree coat pouch,
and then the little ring at the end of the pole saw, right? Like most of those are mostly gone, but I think I still have a pole saw head around here that's got that's where the little brush would go in, right? So you could reach out there with your pole saw.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you winding up the new kid, or you
No.
I didn't know
you don't see it too much anymore, but I can remember the first pole saws that I used on the job in the would have been the mid to late 90s. Still had that little ring that way you could put the brush in. Like I said, we never used tree paint or any of it. It was around. I think mostly because my dad had it around and stuff. But it takes a while for those what do you call those remnants of work practice to get
Well,
disposed of.
traditions, myths, and legends and facts. Shigo would always quip about myth, legends, and facts. Like they're closely related.
So what are you saying here, Dwayne? You're saying that Shigo actually got rid of the bloke who used to make the little hooks for the hand sword. He made them redundant. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's how I
Well, I don't
remember
think
it. Shigo
Well,
saying this is just a stupid idea.
it's
yeah.
funny. It wasn't his intention, but I recall him saying, the like he mentioned it kind of in brief passing in his first article about proper cuts. And he had read a study, I believe it was out of Guelph, Ontario, in Canada, that they couldn't. In fact, if anything, they found when it was applied heavily, there was some bacterial wetwood or gummosis would form under the tar, and so perhaps, and they could prove no efficacy. It didn't really improve anything. And it was
Right.
it was a summarized article, and he Matt, from what I recall him telling me, it was mentioned in passing in this article. The first one he wrote very intrepidly about maybe we shouldn't make flush cuts, and also maybe not paint, and never before has such a long-standing tradition been so quickly abandoned, right? Because everybody hated what we're talking about. It's like this tar. Hey, boss, this dock guy says we don't have to use paint. And I think he kind of became a champion of the working arborist as a result of that. And it vaulted his, and it wasn't even his study or even anything he really was passionate about.
It's just that you're always looking for a little gem in the turds, aren't you? And
Yeah,
that was you. That's
exactly. And isn't it funny? Like, because it's so much how things go. The older you get, the more you realize that one inadvertent comment, like, changed the world. Like, how did they end up beheading him anyway? Well, he said this.
I've definitely heard him say it. Uh,
Oh yeah, no, he definitely talked about it much more after that,
uh,
and but it was interesting. But you knew Alex, I think, Ian,
yeah,
right?
I met him a few couple of times. Yeah. I was his chauffeur for a week. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's my claim to fame. I think in arboriculture, I was Alex's chauffeur for a week. I got to do work with Judy as well later on. Obviously, I'll be running the ISA chapter, so I used to
Okay.
buy all the books out of Judy was my biggest client. I think so we spent a lot of
Okay.
money. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
we'll circle back to that actually. The way that the book sales for Shigo have dropped off. Yeah, they don't teach it in your colleges anymore. We'll circle back to that as a
Well, what?
downside.
Well, that how really? I didn't. Well, how? Why is that?
Well, we've got education in the UK. It's kind of arboriculture education anyway has gone right down the pan. In
Really?
as much as we've only really got one main college. I mean, when I was growing up, there were 5 or 6 major colleges in the UK that taught arboriculture mainstream,
Right.
right from the sort of skill side, to the knowledge side, the academic side, the whole thing. Now there's one, and they don't
Oh,
teach Shigo.
really?
Yeah, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not too sure where we're going with this at all. We've got a huge crisis in the UK and certainly on the Isle of Man. You simply can't recruit with anybody with the right qualifications. They're
Interesting.
just not coming out with the right qualifications. It's been
Huh.
like this for about a decade.
So is that one of those personality conflict type things, or?
Oh, it is in Moscow. It's most certainly there's an issue around whether we're leaving the names out of it just in case I get sued.
Yeah,
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 but the
yeah, yeah.
current incumbents at the college don't believe it was researched correctly. So things like the branch attachment model and all sorts of bits and bobs that were quite interesting. I had a couple of students that I know that went there that I taught, then went there later on for higher qualifications. They don't teach science.
Wow, interesting.
Uh,
Well, I
I don't
mean,
know.
he didn't. Not everyone. He was an evangelistic, person, and he spoke, with exuberance, and that doesn't always land well with everybody, right? But
I always
I
remember thinking
thought
I
that
wish I'd
is.
done a degree in chemistry before I met him. That was one thing I always remember thinking. I went to one of the 3-day lectures when we did it. By the time we got to the third day, my head had exploded.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I couldn't count anymore.
Yeah, yeah, chemistry. He would talk a lot about chemistry. Absolutely. Yeah, and I agree because he shared with me a lot of things he worked on in retirement, and I it was over my head like quite a distance.
I like the
Yeah.
whooshing noise it made as it went past me.
Well, I remember being visiting him one time, and I saw a manuscript above one of his filing cabinets, and I looked at it and I pulled it down, and I was like, "What is?" It was a book, and he grabbed it out of my hands and he put it back up on the shelf, and he said, "The arboriculture industry isn't ready for this."
Oh,
And to my knowledge, it's never been published, and it was a whole nother book.
yeah, I remember. But now I do remember getting some stuff off Alex back in the day. Some CD stuff of unpublished work. There was just
Yes.
reams and reams and reams of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of it
Yeah.
was him just sitting on the back porch, just chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fascinating stuff. That was.
Yeah. It
I
was.
didn't understand 9/10 of it.
Well, and I think that was the biggest thing, like, because Shiga always said that teachers are to be
Well,
stimulators,
I agree.
right?
I
And,
was
and he
able
definitely stimulated thought,
mentally to
conversation. He
be able to
provoked,
stimulate
he
other people.
challenged you to
There was
think, which I think is
teachers
really,
sitting 8 hours of
getting back
stand-up
to
comedy.
training and education as instructors. I think
So
that's one of your key.
I can do
If you
eight
can
hours
do
stand-up
that, you
comedy. I
can
could
really
probably
be
do
effective, right? And
be
that's
an
the whole
artist.
goal is to, expand knowledge. Just comes from thought and provocation of that.
Hang on a second. I'm just going to write that down just a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
Entertain.
Yeah. Well, we would in our organization we call it educomedy
Yeah. I found that
and,
if we
and
keep them, keep the energy
edutainment.
levels up, then their energy levels are up as well. It's one of
Educomedy and
the key
edutainment,
techniques of anybody
because it
listening
really
to
is. You have to keep people.
but it's no
Well,
different to stand-up
it's
comedy.
when
You
people
got
are.
to get the energy in
And
the
there's another
room.
thing Shiga would say: if people are smiling and laughing, they're ready to learn. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm taking your point. I said you had Sharon on this show a while back, didn't you?
yeah.
She never really appreciated me, I don't think.
No,
I don't think she fully
yeah,
grasped the
yeah. No,
European
it's
sense
true.
of humour, I
I've
must say.
always I've heard
I
that
remember
reference
getting a
many
terrible
times, and yet
apology
I've
from
never
Sharon
been brave
about
enough to.
a
I think
joke I
that
did about
I
a
quite
moon.
admire stand-up
Yeah.
comedians. I think it's very
Mark Roberts,
it takes a lot of bravery. I think
Mark, he's good, yeah. He was the chapter president a few years back. Now I worked with him on a couple of things,
Yeah.
but we were doing some practice presentations for track at the time, back in the day. Yeah. And there was this argument about targets, the value of a target in arboriculture. What is it?
Oh,
And it will always be a person, a human being,
yes,
yeah?
Yes.
Being the most
Yeah.
valuable target, and whether we should assess for cars or benches or grass or whatever else it makes them. I was just thinking about penguins. I've
Oh,
got
yeah,
this
yeah.
story about doing some arboriculture in a zoo, yeah, and they've got the world's most endangered penguin. Does it count as a target, as a valued target? Yeah, and well, I suppose it kind of does, doesn't it? Really, if
Right,
it's the last
right.
penguin of its kind in the world, well, you think there are two, but if it's the last one, it'll obviously be a sad end. Well, yeah, if
Yeah.
he failed and killed the penguin, it would be a disaster. And then it was my turn, and I said, and I did a joke about
Yeah.
perspective. Yeah, and I said, is it a penguin or is it just a nun a long way away? It took a few seconds for the joke. Yeah. And then, but of course, I'm in the
Yeah.
Bible Belt of the US, and it just didn't go out very well. And Sharon took it to one side and had a little serious chat with me about making jokes about religion and
Right.
that kind of stuff, and it didn't go down well. And I said, well, in Ireland, I got a standing ovation for that joke. Yeah, but it's
You weren't necessarily saying one's more valuable than the
like
other. It's just a matter
give
of perspective,
example.
is all right.
Yeah.
That's all. It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. I think that if you can't laugh at
Something
religion,
wrong there.
there's something seriously wrong.
I've had
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
I was
exactly.
brought up a Catholic. I've had no choice but to have to recognise that. Otherwise, the alternative is just tears.
Another another recovering Catholic.
Exactly. So I may not live long enough to recover. That's the problem.
Well, your eternity's certain.
I'm not too sure of that either. Yeah. I'm going to burn for a very long time. Yeah.
You know, it's funny you mentioned earlier on the religion topic about how trees play a role in pretty much every religion there is, like organized religion of like, and whether it be the Vikings, whether it be Buddhism, like Buddha was born out of his mother's armpit, and she's holding onto the tree of life.
Yeah, the
You know
Bodhi
the
tree. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
another
I
one.
mean
Yeah.
it's a common theme, and it is fascinating. I think even in First Nation culture, everywhere, you know, and you think about it, trees, you know, provided food, shelter, and they were always, you know, they just were civilization. I think has a very strong connection to all trees, really.
Absolutely. I had a Christmas talk. You know, as it's been the same with you guys. As instructors, you get naturally get invited to do some talks and stuff. Guys.
Yeah.
I've got a whole series of different talks on trees in the law and that stuff. But I've got one for Christmas, which is the
Okay.
like the trees in the religion. Yeah. So we pick out sort of 5 or 6 major religions and look at how the tree forms a central point within that religion. So as you
Yeah.
said, Islam, they're all there.
Yeah.
Christianity, all the Christianity. Most of the Celtic religions have them there. There was a tree of life somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, with Christianity, there's quite a few trees involved. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what they are, but
Well, I mean, there's the cross, there's Eden, there's the tree of, you know, like that's just those are the first simple ones that come to mind. But there's there's the burning bush. There's-
but, well, as I said, the Judas tree, which is acidified
right.
there. Yeah,
Yes.
well, if you ever seen that in the native area it grows in, obviously down in sort of the Middle East, it grows to about 3 foot tall. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure how he hung himself from this tree, but he was a very small guy. Yeah, he was a very small guy. Yeah.
Well, then there was Zacchaeus, right? Zacchaeus climbed up a tree
Oh
to
yes.
remember the story of Zacchaeus. I don't know what book it's in the Bible, but there's this story of Zacchaeus climbed up a little tree. There's even a little song we'd sing in Sunday school about him.
I don't know the song now. Would you do me a favour and while we're on air and sing it for me?
I, Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. He climbed upon a sycamore tree to I can't, for the Lord to see. I think something like that. He wanted to see Jesus, and he it was so many crowds, and he was short, so he climbed up a tree so that Jesus could see him. I
Well,
mean,
you said,
I'm butchering it, I'm sure, and all my Christian friends are going to be shaking their heads at my lack of ability to remember that.
This is reminding me of Monty Python, like, blessed be the cheesemakers. The cheesemakers?
he's a very naughty boy.
What? No lupins?
He climbed a tree?
Oh man, we're boy, we've never gone into the Monty Python realm yet, but hey, what the heck?
Well, it's nice that we share that bit of culture, isn't it? Yes. There's a bit of British humour though I never thought would travel. Yeah.
Oh man, and
Uh,
I think it's still quite has that kind of a cult following. The
oh,
whole
yeah. Well, the life of Brian caused absolute hysteria in the Catholic faith. In it, yeah, there were people threatening death threats and all sorts of that.
I can imagine that.
It's a film, for God's sake. A bit of comedy. Uh,
I can go down to the local pharmacist and buy a condom. Well, why don't you then, Harry?
Well, it's funny. I heard it once described that, like, big ideas, right, go through like 3 stages. Like, they're opposed, then they're accepted, and then they're parody. Right? So I always kind of considered Monty Python to be the parody of many big ideas, right? Kind of its final evolution.
oh yes.
When something big comes out as controversial, and then it becomes accepted, and then it gets made fun of, right? And then the cycle starts again.
Yeah. And they certainly stuck it to the Christian faith.
Yeah.
I'm kind of okay with
Well, particularly Catholics. Well, no, but in a way, both, right? They would quip Protestant and Catholic quite heavily. Yeah.
If you can't laugh at yourself, you shouldn't laugh at anybody else, right?
quite true. Uh,
So, Ian, you went to
anyway,
college, took a
sorry, yeah,
no, it's
we're
okay.
talking
It's
about me.
okay.
That's right.
This is the way the show goes. An abbreviated form of arboriculture training, like walk on a limb, couldn't get back, and he identified 1,000 seeds of grasses. And then, how did you end up as an arborist? Because you clearly have had a career in it.
Well, that's nice that you spotted it. I don't know. I think a lot of people would contest that discussion. But, uh,
Not I, not I. I've always so much enjoyed my time spent with you, and I relish and fondly remember our times on the track panel of experts.
I've got some. I mean, whether we can share them, I don't know, but I'm going to. But my favourite memory was absolutely when we were in Florida,
Oh yeah.
Orlando. Yeah, do you remember?
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. So I don't know whether Tony's heard this story, but we're part of the track panel. So Dwayne and Moss, every court deserves a jester, and that was either Dwayne's or my job. But the rest of the court were made up of the kings and queens of arboriculture. So we've got Nelda and there was Tom,
Yeah.
Julian.
Yeah.
I'm not using the last names because just in case they see it. Yeah. But we got 3 or 4 of the world's leading risk arborists looking at the base of, I think it was a swamp cypress, I'm not sure.
I think it was a live oak.
Barking.
I think it was a live oak. Anyways,
I can't remember the tree. Yeah, and they're discussing the fungus at the bottom. The base of the tree is something called grey spongy mass growing out of one of the root flares.
excuse me.
And they're kind of poking it with the fingers and having a chit chat about it. And I'm standing about 5 yards back, and there was Frank Reen, Dwayne, and myself going, I'm pretty sure it's a dog tree. Yeah. And then eventually we started laughing so badly that Tom finally turned around and listened. And mate, that's a turd. And he went, melt his finger on the seat, and then Dwayne fainted with laughter. So we've got sort of the world's most published and leading arboriculturist trying to misidentify a dog tree. And I think that was kind of tells you all you need to know about the track course, really.
Well, I mean, it was poetic in a sense. I mean, because it is such a, what was so funny is we're trying to take objectivity or subjectivity out of it, right? and there you have like it was classic, like and it's so difficult. That's the thing about trees and what we know about trees and how they interact with everything. It's so complex, and to think that we have it dialed is just almost laughable, really. Yeah, yeah.
Of course.
But we do the best we
I
can.
mean, we're all of us.
Yeah.
We're all of a similar age, and you've seen how many changes have happened in our lifetime, and that's just a blink of an eye.
Yeah,
Isn't it, really?
yeah. It is
So
fascinating.
what's the common idea?
And how long trees?
I think I've heard on your show how much it changed. Like back into the 90s, early 2000s, changing the millennium. I mean, that was absolutely one of those curves where everything just took off in every direction. Not just the climbing kit, but the techniques, the understanding behind it, the knowledge, the science, everything just exploded. I think when all the ducks came in a line, which is a saying I absolutely hate. I don't know why I use it. Can you edit that out?
Yep,
Take that out.
I can change it. I'll change it to geese.
Cheers, bud. Right? Sounds so much better, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, and to be fair about the misdiagnosis, I mean, it was funny because of the context of it all. But I mean, I've done the same thing, and we've all. That's part of what makes it so laughable, because we've all like have misdiagnosed or you get it's that perceptual narrowing when you're so focused on something that you fail to see the bigger picture, right? And we're all I've had that happen more than well. I remember one time looking at this tree. It was hung up, and we were doing a hazard removal course, and there was a guy that had just started that day to this municipal crew. So he was just there, no training, no nothing, and he was standing back watching us debate the intricacies of this, how we're going to remove this tree or fell this tree. And he looks up and he says, "What if you just pulled on that, and that'll just dislodge?" And it was, oh yeah, that would be the simplest thing to do. And he was the least trained by far on the entire of all of us, and he discovered the simplest, easiest way to deal with it, right? So sometimes we're all, and that's what was made that so funny. We're all We're all human, and the humanness was revealed in us all.
We're trained to overthink.
Right.
Well, we're trained to overthink it. It should be fairly straightforward, really, but no. We've got to make a meal out of it. And again, it's the same in the UK with the legislation. We're so outside of the. I mean, I understand risk and everything else. That's whether any man can, and I understand that statistically speaking, second most dangerous occupation outside the armed forces.
Yeah.
That's one of those great things that we use in teaching quite a lot.
Yeah.
Well, we've also if you stare at any object, it's the men who stare at goats. That's a great film. I use that title. If you stare at this tree long enough, it will become the most dangerous tree in the world. It's just this thing about focusing without taking the bigger picture.
Yeah.
There must be a simpler way of doing this. If you stare at the tree long enough, it will become the most dangerous tree in the world.
It was one of the things I learned from Jack Phillips when we would work together, because he and I would teach Shigo studied biology after Shigo passed, and he would always, when we'd go to a site or a location where we'd be working, he always had to have an espresso, and we would sit back like at the parking lot and observe the park from a distance. And I don't know if it was that he just wanted to drink his espresso in peace, or which probably had a lot to do with. But he would observe the location and what was around, and the people and the goings on, and I would be, we need to go up and look at these. These are the trees. They're over here. Yeah. We'll get to it. Let's just sit back here and look for a little bit. And it taught me a little bit of taking that moment to pause, and reflect on the bigger picture before you get too focused on the inside. I mean, Tony, with your philosophy background, is there a term for this kind of thing? Or is it like
it's all over the place, right? Like, probably the most one that comes to mind is, Viktor Frankl. Between stimulation and response,
right.
You have a choice, right? That choice the time to make that choice might be fractions of a second, or you could make it years, right? So I think, and then, the whole idea of basically just mindfulness, right? Which is essentially being where your feet are as opposed to in the past or in the future, is the exact same thing, right?
Right.
It's a concept that repeats again and again through many different philosophies, and I think the trees are the perfect example of that, right? A tree can't leave. It's like it's in a bad situation. A tree can't say, "Oh, I'm out of here," right? Trees have to be where their roots are, right? Yeah. They don't have a choice. So it's like I said, dude. I think if a tree had a memory, I think it would be like a time lapse photo, right?
Yeah.
But they have to be content.
Content. It's a good word.
They have to learn to be content.
Or accepting. Tolerance, acceptance, and tolerance, which in our humanness is powerful words, like acceptance and tolerance. My goodness.
Well, my daughter and I have a bit of a running joke. We like to go camping and stuff, so every once in a while you'll see like that, beech tree, Fagus grandifolia in the middle of a campground that's just been unmercifully just carved up, and we'll look at it and I'll go, honey, I don't know what that tree was in a former life, but it wasn't good. So we have this little running joke. Whenever I see a tree that's just been abused, be like, I don't know what it did in a former life, but it wasn't good.
But it was, when it comes to carving your loved ones, you're proclaiming your love of your lover in a tree. It's a epitaph of love while wounding the tree.
Exactly.
That's exactly what. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it'd probably be more fitting if you carved it into yourself. Love hurts.
Yeah.
I think self-tattooing with some quink. I think quink. You have quink?
No.
Ink.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, writing ink and a compass. It was a thing in the 70s for me. I didn't do it personally. I couldn't stand the pain. But, a compass, this thing with a point on you draw a circle with. That kind of compass.
Oh.
You used to stab yourself with covered in ink and tattoo yourself.
Slow motion tattoo.
Yeah. So the trees survived. Everybody was tattooing themselves with ink. But now it's not the same anymore. We'll set fire to them now. Anyway.
So,
that was a Buddhist reference, Tony, yeah? A Buddhist
Oh,
reference.
yeah, for the reincarnation? Yeah, I don't know if they're...
Yeah.
Well, a couple
And you
different.
keep cycling back to the religious part of things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think when it comes to trees, that's another part of it, is that there's this eternal or ephemeral quality that as humans we know that this living thing that's clearly, has life in it is, was there. You remember it as a child, and as you get older you realize it's going to still be there long after I'm gone, and you realize it was there long before I was even around, and that creates well, I don't know, like a different perspective that trees bring to humans. It's like, that this tree is going to be there for past generations and has been. Some of these trees that are 1,000 years old plus thousands of years old. It's fascinating. And you can't help but get a little esoteric on that. And you're thinking, like, what this thing has seen, what it's lived through. We're talking about all these fires, and yet some trees, well, survived that.
Some trees require it.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
And some of yours.
now we're back to the fire talk.
Back to the fire, exactly.
Which is part of what they're talking about, is that they need, like, the fire actually helps some of these older trees in some ways, right?
Well, I always remember the story with Smokey Bear.
Right.
It's not a thing for us, this side of the pond. But Smokey Bear was responsible for burning down most of California. Yeah. Yeah. It was one of those things I read reading. I don't know if it was a paper or a news article or what it was, but because of the thing about only you can prevent forest fires.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a couple of Smokey T-shirts and badges and things. It's one of the great things I'm thinking. The UK Forest Service ought to do something like this to promote itself. And then I read a bit about the forest fires, because he was so successful with the message that the brash build-up in the woods got so bad that when the fire did turn up, which it inevitably did, it burned for days and killed everything, rather than just ran straight through the woods.
Yeah.
And they basically blamed, the Forest Service blamed Smokey for it. That was something a bit harsh. Yeah. You've got to remember, guys, it's not real. It's just an animal.
I think they threw Smokey under the bus, because all Smokey was saying is don't let humans start forest fires. Smokey had nothing to do with fuel wood management and suppression of naturally occurring fires. That wasn't Smokey. That was some bureaucrat somewhere.
Yeah, he died a terrible death under the bus.
Yeah, but
what happened to Woodsy, I've no idea. The owl was just forgotten in all of this. But I do remember Smokey getting falsely accused.
Well, it was probably one of those successful ad campaigns that grew beyond what they ever intended it to, probably.
Exactly, because life of its own.
Yeah, it worked so well. So, your foray from college into arboriculture, we haven't made that connection yet.
Yeah, we still haven't go. Yeah, that was about 3 years ago. I can't remember. What were we talking about? I can't remember. Anyway, yes, so that foray, yeah. So I ended up kind of selecting tree crew work, yeah. There was a bit of a gap and a hiatus when I kind of went back into landscape and came back into managing the tree gangs. Again, for municipalities. Most of my work has been municipalities.
Uh-huh.
I've worked quite a few different municipalities across the UK. Managing trees on a large scale. That's the bit that I came back. But the tree work stuff was the side that kind of, again, when you get to the point where you're managing tree crews, then crew safety becomes a completely different ballgame altogether. You're not just responsible for yourself, you're responsible for lots of other people.
Right.
And that's when I think my association with the ISA came beneficial. Because we went along that curve. We got a lot of, I do remember the Arbormaster tour. I know you talk a lot about Arbormasters on this show.
Yeah.
Ken and Barbie?
Yeah.
Ken and Barbie?
Yeah.
So that's what they affectionately became known as over
here.
Yeah, so we had a I think 2-week long tour.
Yeah.
With Rip and Ken, we organised over here back in the day. When we took them all the way around the UK doing exactly what they do, presentations on advanced climbing techniques and tree care. But at that time, we'd already got a fairly stylised and, rigorous training program run by the government and different governmental bodies, various quangos. It's very difficult for a private company to break in.
Yeah.
And they never did manage that, which is a shame, but they did change the way things happened over here. I remember the sales of micro pulleys. Yeah. Slack tenders, they were sold.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'd never seen one. Didn't know what they were. and they rocked it. And that they sold out. Honey Brothers, who were the big tree company, was
Yep.
equipment company that was sponsoring the event at the time, sold out of micro pulleys on the first day.
Yeah.
They were scrabbling all over the country to buy micro pulleys. Kind of just a weird thing that sticks out in my mind.
Yeah, no, it's true.
It's such a simple thing, a bit of slack tender that they just brought them on. Everybody went, that's clever, and I can afford that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can afford to buy one of those.
Yeah.
Can't afford to buy rigging kits, but I can buy one of them.
It was, I think I remember the first time I saw that, and the possibilities, the ease. It was just an absolute sensible thing. It's funny because that Ken got the idea of that from sailing, because on large sailing ships, yeah, with tall masts, the line to lift and lower the sail, if it in heavy winds, it would side load and go into the pulley on an angle. So they would put a fair lead or a slack tender below it on a smaller pulley on a swivel, so it would guide it into, or fair lead it into, the mast sail, the main pulley, the main block. And it just clicked on him one time. Hey, you could do that, so you could work your hitch with one hand, which, I mean, anybody that's climbed would give anything to be able to, how many times you're in that awkward position where you got one hand on the one rope and you're slack and you can't move the knot because it's slack between your hand and the knot, and you're balancing on the limb, and it's just awkward. But with this pulley, you could just pull, and it like, what a simple revolutionary thing. And it literally, it just changed. It was a Smokey Bear kind of thing,
Changed everything. Well, hopefully for the better, not for the worse.
Right. Tony, do you remember that moment when you, like, particularly with a slack tender?
Well, I remember it so much because now I refer to things as purple pulley moments in tree work care, right? Like, where you're shown something that, like, you're like, holy shit, that's great. Yeah, because I saw it, and of course I'm still too cheap, so I was using keychain carabiners.
Right.
But then once I saw that how well it worked even with a crappy keychain carabiner, and then when you got the purple pulley, it was great. I still have it. In fact, I have the original purple pulley.
Right.
Yeah, it was just awesome. Like, and I think it was a progression of things. It allowed a lot of other things to happen. But it reminds me of, I was just listening, I think it came across YouTube or something. Somebody was talking in depth about a porta wrap, right? And what was interesting is everything they were saying was technically correct, right? Everything they were saying, but they had no idea of the history. Like, Scott and Norm weren't mentioned at all. Like, they were,
Really?
they basically hinted that it came from the maritime industry, where, a bollard on a ship or on a dock or something. But it was, like you said, everything he said was technically correct about how a porta wrap works, but there was no sense of the history of it, which made me realize that a lot of the history is kind of getting lost a little bit, right? Like, now people take for granted the purple pulley and a fair lead. It's just like, you wouldn't, I mean, if you take the pulley off and people just look at it and go, like, how could you possibly use that? Like, how would, it's so, and then you get systems like the Hitch climber, which it's integral, right? The pulley isn't just extra like it was for the purple pulley. It's a part of the system.
Well, and I think the Hitch climber was to almost to tree imagineers what the purple pulley was to Arbormaster in a way. I mean, they had the Tremo, which was huge, but the Hitch climber, I think, was almost more. And ironically, another pulley moment of all things, right? They actually built a better mousetrap. I remember Mark.
Again, talking about those moments, just so you know, that the English Prussic,
Yeah.
it's just called the Prussic.
I hear that about.
Not called the English.
I hear that about Brazil and Brazil nuts too. That in Brazil they're just called nuts.
Exactly. Just known as the Prussic loop.
Cool, you had me worried there that you're going to talk about Brazilians for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, no. As long as it doesn't show us one, then that's fine.
Right, it's audio only. Tony, take that down.
I've done shave those jokes clean. I don't have any left.
Oh no, here we go. Yeah. It's going to be a close call this one.
It makes me think of Ian, your humor was legendary, and um, unabashed. And I remember once you going on about after you had your heart incident, or maybe it was before that, but you talked about getting older and seepage. You talked about seepage.
Seepage, anal seepage by any chance, yeah? Huh?
And I was laughing so hard. I don't think they could tell that I was also a little almost embarrassed, but it was so funny and so true to any. Well, I don't think it's gender specific either. I think it's an ailment that befalls any elderly as you age.
You get to a certain age in life when there's a few things that you can't do, and one of them is trust a cop. You never trust the cop. Yeah?
Yeah,
But that might just cause a bit of a
yeah,
problem here, because if you've got anal seepage, coughing is a massive issue for you. No question about it. Yeah. The other thing as well, Tony, just when you get to my age, if you have a chance to go for a wee, go for one. If you don't know whether you're going to last till the next one, also you just have to go. Lots of things.
yeah.
Can I do the erection one as well? I'm not sure it's appropriate.
Well, I mean, Tony.
But you can always edit it out, can't you? But Tony, if you get an erection, use it, even if you're on your own. Yeah. You never know when the next one might occur.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Just aging things.
well, it wouldn't
Were
be.
you there when I told the elbow skins out with Colin Bashford?
Oh,
Remember Colin
yes,
Bashford, yeah?
yes.
I think you might have been in that room at
I
that
was.
time. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. I thought he was going to have a heart attack with the elbow
Wasn't
skins
it?
out.
Didn't Wasn't it? Weren't Italians involved in that joke?
There were some Italians involved with that joke. Yes, that's right. Yeah. An Italian waiter, to be exact. Yeah.
uh, um, so you mentioned
So yes,
you didn't
radio, concentrate,
no,
concentrate.
you weren't just a tree risk assessor though. You also managed crews. You said in England as well.
Yeah, that's where I came into the industry really from the tree crew. Ended up managing tree crews.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, and then from there, I said we got involved. It was how I got involved in the sort of bigger picture, the global picture, was because the UK hosted the first non-North American international conference
right.
back in Birmingham in 1998.
Yes.
We had the first one that was overseas. We actually put the I in ISA. But before that, it stood for Canada. Yeah. I in ISA stood for Canada.
Right.
And then along we came, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a real seat of the pants session, that one was.
Yeah, I was there,
We didn't know what we were doing. There was only about 10 of
and
us.
I climbed in that event.
Were you
Yeah,
you
I
climbed, yeah?
was chapter champion. I climbed in
Yeah,
Birmingham.
cool. That was the first time I met you then,
It
yeah?
probably was. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And are the like the statistics that we reference so frequently, like you've already mentioned, are they like is the legislation and the NPTC and its effects, have they made a difference in England? Do you think, as far as fatalities go?
Well, at least we know what caused the fatality most of the time, because that was quite rigorous, yeah?
Right.
There'll always be that issue. I do remember at the time, I was still contracting at the time. There were two quite serious accidents within a mile of each of where my depot was. One job we tendered for and didn't get. Back garden sycamore. Now we call sycamores
London
same as
plane.
yours. No, Acer
Oh,
pseudoplatanus sycamore.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. You know the story about that, do you? By the time the fathers had sailed across on the pilgrims and sailed across, they'd forgotten what a sycamore looked like.
Okay.
They saw the plane tree and called it a sycamore. Yeah.
Okay.
So you guys call plane trees sycamore, and we call them plane trees.
Right.
We call sycamores Acer pseudoplatanus.
Okay.
Platanus acerbipolar is the plane tree.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know what on earth I was talking about
You were
before.
talking about a fatality near your depot.
Yeah. There was a guy, a house, a rear garden job. They decided they couldn't afford to pay the tree crews. Couldn't afford our price. So they had to go to themselves, and the neighbour managed to kill himself by dropping the tree on him. So that was most unfortunate. But it then became a statistic within the tree industry. So a tree felling incident killed somebody.
Right.
And it was then part of our statistics. It had nothing to do with professional arboriculture.
Right.
It was despite professional arboriculture. They weren't going to pay the price, and they paid the ultimate price. 5 miles down the road, the other direction, we got the country's leading contractor at the time. Guy fell out of a tree, in a local park, landed on his bum, paralysed you, smashed your spine to pieces, never worked again. And that never made it into our statistics. So there's always been that thing about not too sure what the statistics actually tell us. The way we record them makes us look quite bad. We don't record them accurately enough.
Yeah.
And it's always been a fault of the system.
Right.
So that was within 2 days of each other. One guy permanently paralysed, professional climber, and another guy was a goodwill neighbour that killed himself. One got in our statistics, one didn't. It's the wrong way around.
Right. Interesting.
So it's on a serious note, it is still a bit of an issue.
Well, you know,
I mean, I spent a couple of nights in hospital because of arboriculture. Who hasn't?
Yeah.
And again, we often talk about Pete Donzel.
Yep.
Yeah. There was nobody better at rigging in the whole of the world than Pete Donzel. From a science point of view.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's always that thing, it doesn't matter how clever, how good you are. You're only a momentary lapse of concentration or one little chunk of information that's missing.
Yep.
And finish.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that whole thing about trees and the knowledge that we think we have versus what you can't know, you just can't, and that's where preparation and planning is your best defense. But even in that, I think a lot of it has to do with frequency too. The more you do it, the more likely something will happen. Hopefully not a fatality, but it's and I think that's partly what maybe a lot of us like about the trade or the industry, right? Is that there's an element of excitement or risk, and I guess they're closely related. I don't know which is, and as you get older, though, I think I find I find less excitement and more risk in it.
Yes, you again, perspective as you get older, perspective changes.
Yeah.
The very fact that I can't pull my way on weight of a rope anymore is one thing. But that's the sort of point.
Yeah, that's a sad moment when you realize you can't tug up a rope quite like you used to. I still manage it, but definitely not like it was. But hey, that's life. Lots of things change.
That's the way it goes, exactly. I mean, I grew up in the body thrusting era. It was always a great thing to be able to teach that particular technique. There's so many innuendos. Body thrusting.
Talking about edgy comedy.
Been a long time foot locking.
You know what? Interestingly, I just had a conversation with one of our instructors talking about body thrust and footlock in particular. And they witnessed a new climber that needed to move from one location in the tree to another, and it required an ascent of a couple meters, not a great distance, and then a lateral movement. But they had to put the ascender on and put the Haas on, and then but they could have just footlocked the rope, the tail. They were in a moving rope system, but they didn't know, or body thrusted even. But they just it's not. And she realized that have people actually forgotten that you could just body thrust 10 feet? It isn't that difficult. It's more efficient to use your ascenders, but it's only a short hop. Just body thrust give a couple thrusts and away you go, or grab the tail of your rope and grab with your feet. And they're like, what do you mean? I can't grab with my. Yeah, well, you don't need to have a foot ascender. You don't need to have a knee ascender. You can just grab it. And Tony, have you witnessed that? Do you think that that's something that's happening?
Yeah, I do see that a lot.
Really?
Sort of a loss of the sort of basic technique. I find it all the time. I'll be working with new climbers, and the same situation. They got to go up more than a meter, right? 2 meters, more than you could step, and there's no tree to climb, and they're getting all that stuff out. I'm like, just pull the rope, go up. You have the purple pulley or the equivalent of step up and pull, right? It is, yeah. I think that it was sort of criminalized. I think body thrusting for a bit. Somehow it's not right, but it's still I don't recommend anybody body thrust more than a couple meters, right? Because it's inefficient. It could be bad for you. But if it's just a little bit of time, going up,
or even if you just go slow,
Right. Well, I'm even now at the point with training climbers. I used to never really talk about footlocking much, like just, double line Prussic footlocking. But now I do all the time for two reasons. One, it will take every muscle in your body and make it better for tree climbing, unlike any other exercise. And two, like now everybody is using, stationary rope positionings and like that. And for that to work well, the rope and your spine have to be parallel to gain the efficiency. Well, most people just quite honestly don't have the core strength to maintain that position. They're much more likely to tip back. Well, footlocking will fix that, right? Unlike any other exercise. So footlock a lot. Now, like I said, I tell people if you're going to be footlocking 300 feet a day, you're going to have ergonomic problems. But you're talking 30, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're talking 30, 40 feet once or twice a week. It's not going to hurt you, right? It's the dose. The dose makes the poison. Right?
But I do have a footlocking story actually. So while we're on,
Yeah.
Joe Hedger, you'll know.
Of course,
Hedger, yeah?
yes.
I was the judge on the station when she had her first ever footlock.
Oh wow.
Yeah, here in the UK, it took 5 minutes. Yeah, something like 5:31. I think.
Yeah.
I've never seen a woman with so much determination in all my life. I mean, everybody else would have given up, but she wasn't ever going to give up.
Yeah.
You know? And I was there when she broke the world record the first time. I was actually the head judge on the station when she broke the record.
Right. Awesome.
And that was just about 18 months, 2 years gap. That's all it was.
Wow.
Was that moment when you go, that was a pleasure and a privilege to have witnessed this from both ends.
Yeah.
The first ever go in the competition, and I mean, it was painful to watch. Yeah, but she did.
Great.
She rang the bell.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, she broke the world record.
Right.
Yeah. And you go, that's what it's all about, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that she was never going to let it go. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one regret I have about the changing of that event, which I think I don't disagree with it, but we've lost the record. No one can. I mean, I think if they do the head-to-head footlock, there's an opportunity potentially, maybe, but it's not like it was. Like there was always that chance: is someone going to break the record, right? And that we've lost that in the comp now. Oh well, things.
I think it was the Europeans. I think she broke it at the Europeans, if I remember rightly. Can't remember. But yeah, I remember it. But I said the other one was, you talk about 2 meters. Bedders would have jumped 2 meters.
Right.
Didn't they? I remember watching him practice before on the Worlds, barefoot. Have you ever seen him do that? Yeah, so I was stood there and just with the mouth open, just making sort of silly noise. Or he just leaped around the tree like I'm thinking, oh no, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
This is not human.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at 2 meter jump, he could have just done that from one branch to the other and just carried on.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it before he competed. I don't know where it was. It might have been Seattle. Can't remember. But he was practicing in the background on a tree with no shoes on to get his balance
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Just trying to get his balance correct before he competed.
Yeah, well, he talked to me about that a lot. He did it and also he didn't like hurting the tree.
That's right.
Right, because the boots often scuff the bark, so he started working with no shoes.
But with the Germans, that revolutionised our climbing over here, bar none. When we had our first tree climbing competition, the Germans sent the team over, cleaned the place up. First, second, third, fourth, and fifth, and everything. And we were nowhere near them.
Yeah.
They rocked up with all this kit that nobody had ever seen before.
Right.
I don't even know half the stuff. How he's supposed to judge this, I don't even know what he's doing. And for the first 2 years, we had our tree climbing comps between 95 and 96 or 7 that time.
Yeah.
They just rocked up and took all the bikes back in the bank. So Kai and Bettis and the rest.
Yeah. Kai. I remember when Bettis was hanging out with Kai, and Kai had a lot to do with Bettis's development, actually. Yeah. And Canute. Mm-hmm. Remember Canute?
Yeah, remember Canute? Yeah. Forgot about him. Yeah.
He's still doing.
But that was phenomenal, and I think they kind of everybody that took part just went moment of shock. That blue moment.
Yeah.
When it changed things and the curve started, and everything started to get quite serious about heat development, the technique development, and everything else.
Well, and I think it's still on. Like I definitely, I mean, I can still climb, but I'm now of that vintage where it's like I climb the way I climb because I know it, and I'm not at that. it's not a level. It's just the level of knowledge to use the. I just don't. I haven't kept up with that part of arboriculture. And I know Tony, you've done a better job of that, but there's so much.
Can't keep it all up. It's too many plates spinning. I couldn't
Yeah,
concentrate long enough to keep up with all of it. So,
yeah.
exactly.
So we call it the Human Forestry Podcast, Ian, and I'm curious what your uh, take on that would be when you think of all the people that we've interacted with, and we're a moving forest more than trees are. But how have I was wondering what you would have to say about our tagline, the Human Forestry Podcast. How do you feel your time in the human forest has been, and what have you learned from being a part of the human forest that you would be a part of, and how it's, we have the ability to move through different forests, but and we have old growth and new growth, and you watched like Josephine as a young sapling growing into a mighty oak.
I have an answer for you. It may not be the answer you wanted, but my answers very seldom are. But let's leave it at that. No, I think if I had to pick one thing that I've done in the last 50 odd years, would be my work with volunteers. Yeah, it's the one thing that in all the years I've been doing tree care, no one's ever written a letter and to my boss and said, well done for pruning my tree, or well done for doing this. Yeah. But I've got a lot of thanks and accolades to a certain extent for working with the volunteer group, planting trees, that side of arboriculture. That's the bit that has occupied the last 20 years, really. And one of those is the formation, and it's shamelessly copied from the LA tree people. It's the formation of Birmingham tree people. And it's tree people is one word, and I had a right game with this because obviously we're in England, and speaking English is supposedly important. I don't know. So it was tree people. And I said, no, it's tree people is one word. And it's one word for a good reason. You can't separate trees and people. And that's why it's tree people is one word. Yeah. And I stole that from Andy Lipkiss. Yeah. So tree people is one word, and it's one word because you cannot separate trees. Intrinsically involved in each other at whatever level. So I don't know whether that answered your question or not, but
Yeah, no, no, no. That's a beautiful answer, and it was more of a query than an answer. I think I just find as I've pondered things, I think there's so many things from trees and how they grow and deal with wounding and how they interact and share resources and connect, with interspecies and certainly within species, like so many lessons of how we could live as humans, with as a human forest. That's I've always found that fascinating thought.
well, I spend huge amounts of my time. I spend a lot of time working in town planning, which is kind of the ultimate. Again, it's one of those things. What did I do in a former life was something quite bad. So I ended up working in town planning after the job. So, but again, it's one of those things we go on about tree canopy densities all the time, and about trying to make where people live livable
Right.
by reintroducing trees back into where
Yeah.
they live. Because trees have no benefit if they're a physical attraction. So this is me on my pedestal. I think about we'll cut the trees down. It was always a great joke, wasn't it, with developers? They cut the trees down and name the roads after the trees. So Redwood Way, that kind of thing. Yeah, so Sycamore Street. Yeah, where all the sycamores used to
Right.
grow. Yeah, but and then we kind of realised that it doesn't work. So I think the World Health Organization declared air pollution as being the single biggest killer of humans in the whole of the planet. And there's only one solution, and that's trees.
Right.
We've got to put them back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
So we
yeah,
have.
like I think it's been proven over and over that communities with and people, or like you said earlier, trees and people are connected, and it's it's uh, it's communities without trees, like, or spaces, parks where trees are, and that's where people go. I was in Hong Kong doing some work, and the Kowloon Park is packed, and quite a large park in that part of Hong Kong, and They're always, and people have their residence that they don't eat there. They basically sleep and shower in a small apartment, but their eating and all their interaction is all done outside in the park. Yeah, and lots in
So
the
we've got
park.
some friends on the island that just moved to Singapore. We've got a couple of friends that just taken to work there and moved to Singapore. It's very much the
Yeah.
same. Except in the summer when you can't sit outside, it's too
Right,
hot.
right,
So
right.
but they've got the same thing where you can throw a banana skin on the floor and the next day it's a tree. It's just the perfect environment for growing things. So a very green place.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. And interesting. Well, unlike some places, Ian, we still have Shigo's books, and I don't know if you've had it.
I've got a copy signed.
Yes.
I have a signed copy of Tree 50 Points somewhere. Which one we're going to go for? Oh, is it your signed as well? So I missed that. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, this one.
Is that signed?
Yeah, this one is one that I gave to my son that was signed, and it's it. I don't know how it ended up at my house, but it's his. But we always ask we started this tradition this year in our fourth season of asking our guests as kind of as a wrap up to our podcast session of if they would pick a pithy point. Now you're familiar. Most of our guests aren't familiar or haven't even seen the book, but do you have a favorite, or do you want to just pick a number? As you know, there's 900.
No, I'm going to pick a number. I'm going to say I'll openly admit that I never read it from cover to
Yeah,
cover.
it's okay.
Yeah. It's okay. I managed to do modern arboriculture until about chapter 4. And new tree biology, I just read the dictionary.
Well, my goodness, Ian, I think you must be the only person that hasn't read those cover to cover. I mean, I know it.
Shocking, isn't it? Yeah,
I remember Shigo would quote, he would say, he had this saying, "That's a nice shirt you've got on, but I don't want to discuss this with you." And what he discovered, and he said people would come up to him and say, "I love your book. It was so wonderful. Would you please sign it?" And he would, of course. And then they would ask him a question, and he would realize they hadn't read the book because the answer was in the book. And he said, and in that moment, they would look at him and realize that he knew that they knew that he didn't read. And then he said, always for some reason, I was the jerk. And so he said, after that, when it started happening, he would just say, "That's a nice shirt you've got on, but I don't want to discuss this with you." But anyways, I haven't read Pithy Points cover to cover, but we get through them, and I haven't read it through either, and neither have I completed a new tree biology or modern arboriculture, but I have perused them many times.
Perused, yes, cherry picked, I think is the
correct.
Yeah.
So, as you know, there's 900 plus Pithy Points. You want to pick one?
Six.
Ooh, the number of
Got to be that one.
the number of the beast. No one's picked that. We got a Black Sabbath.
No, I don't. Sorry.
Where does that?
If you look behind your ear, just there, you'll see the 3 6s.
Okay. Is there?
That's where the devil tattoos.
Is there an origin?
The devil tattoos his own with the 6s just behind the ear.
There is. Tree Pithy Point, number 666. Humic acids slow decomposition reaction. Oh, sorry. Humic acids slow decomposition reactions in soils. Humic acids slow decomposition reactions in soils. Isn't that ironic? Because you mentioned chemistry and Shigo earlier, and here it is.
I have no idea whether that's true or not, and I never will.
Well, there also is 77 tree pithy points that are separate from the others with pictures. So pick one between 1 and 77.
Oh, well, I don't know. We'll go with 9.
Ooh, okay.
Because that's it's 9. I don't know. It's a sacred number as well.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
So this is the photograph. I'll let you look at it, even though our guests can't see it. It's just of a canopy of a tree that looks like it's entering fall color. It's gold and yellow or red.
That would be autumn.
Autumn, yes. What did I say?
Thank you very much.
What did I say? Fall. All right. Tree,
Remember, you're a British colony, you're not part of America.
tree pithy picture point. Number 9. Trees not only provide beauty and shade, but they trap more of the sun's energy than any other organism and pass it along to many communities of associates, including humans. Triple.
Why we can see more shades of green than any other animal.
Really?
You know that about human
No, I
eyes?
did not.
We can see something like about 260 odd different tones of green because of our involvement with chlorophyll.
Really?
Yes, we can see more shades of green than any animal that ever went before.
Because of our involvement with chlorophyll?
Basically, chlorophyll is the green.
Yeah.
All those shades of green except the colour of the shift, which is obviously wrong. You know what I mean? In the natural environment, it's chlorophyll.
Correct. Wherever there's green.
Without chlorophyll, none of us would exist.
Interesting. And yet, and humans don't have chlorophyll in our bodies, though. Like we don't.
Oh, I think to remember.
Unless it's gangrene.
One of my tree biology classes, we have an iron atom instead of a sort of well, I can't think what it is now. At the centre of our, we have an iron atom, and the only difference between us and the tree is one atom within the makeup, and I can't think what it is.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, there's only one atom difference.
Here we go back to chemistry again.
Exactly. I said I don't know whether anything I've just said is true. Might just have made it up. I can't remember.
Well, one thing that is true is that I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation this morning, and I'm so happy that you agreed to join us. Not just to be on the show, but from the Isle of Man, no less.
Well, we covered about 1/10 of the work, everything to do with what I'm doing, but it doesn't matter. I've thoroughly enjoyed it myself.
Yeah.
I've had a good laugh at it.
Yeah, we don't have, there's never an agenda. It's just the conversation flows and it's where it goes. And that's the way we like it and the way it is so far, Tony. Hey, wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I'm not organized enough to script anything.
Yes, it's, nobody ever asked me to take notes. I'm always pleased about that. Nobody ever asked me to take notes. I can't do it, so I make it up as it goes along.
Right.
So any notes that I take, I have no representation of the meeting I was at at all. I think that's a better way of doing it. Much more.
But we do have.
Went from taking minutes of a safety meeting when I actually did it as a pantomime, Christmas pantomime. Everybody became a character in the pantomime. So everybody was just gone. So it was Aladdin and his terrible problem. Was the title of the minutes. Aladdin had a terrible growth that he was a bit embarrassed about, and I just got one up. I can't be asked to do minutes. And then they never asked me again. It was quite crazy.
Oh, that's funny. Well, thank you, Ian.